All right, you guys, welcome back to the Shadow Priestess Embodied podcast. And today we are having a juicy conversation. I invited one of my dear friends, soul sisters, Lisa Moore, onto the podcast to really give her an opportunity to share her voice, to share her work, to share her mission. And this truly is a woman that I stand for, that I stand behind. And for those of you who do not know Lisa, Lisa is a trailblazing divine power healer, activator, speaker, and visionary founder of the House of Guilt. She is on a mission to raise collective consciousness by empowering the badass light leaders of the world to really transcend 3D fear, lack, limitation, into 5D love, abundance, freedom, and really birthing a new world together. Through her subconscious reprogramming, energy healing, and activating voice, Lisa really helps you to fully own your soul's truth and divine power to create your soul's desires and to shine your light brighter than ever before. Her work doesn't just transformational, it truly is revolutionary, a catalyst, a powerful herd healing ripple effect to lead humanity out of the darkness and to really awaken collective consciousness like never before. This is such an incredible conversation, and I'm so excited to share Lisa and this with you today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Shadow Priestess Embodied podcast. I'm your host, Kaylyn Rutkowski, and welcome back. So today I am bringing on one of my dear soul sisters, partner in light, partner in shadow, Lisa Moore, and she is just an absolute trailblazer in her own right, and I am so excited to deep dive into this episode. So Lisa, thank you for being here. If you'd like to introduce yourself, tell us about the work you do in the world, and just what brought you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Kaylyn. Honestly, it fills my heart with joy to be here. I know we connected a little while ago and it's the divine time to have this conversation. So I'm so excited. So yeah, my name is Lisa Moore. I'm a divine power healer, activator, and speaker. And my gift is being able to identify the collectively held subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings that basically create this 3D matrix that we've all collectively bought into over thousands of years of conditioning. And yeah, my job is to bring awareness to these, shine a light on this collectively held BS so that we can start shifting into 5D, because this 3D matrix has an expiry date. I'm not here for it. We've been training for this for lifetimes, and this is the lifetime we get to shift from this 3D matrix of fear, lack, and limitation into 5D unconditional love, unity consciousness, freedom, abundance, and joy for all. So yeah, that is my work, helping people individually identify which of these collectively held subconscious limitations they have to create like deep transformation in their life, but also contributing to raising collective consciousness and birthing this new world together, because every single one of us that does that, it's playing its part in raising that frequency. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's just a little bit about me and the epic.
A little bit.
So no, I love everything that you already touched on. And this is exactly why I wanted to have you on here today, because I feel like we really are on the precipice of a new age, of birthing a new age. And really, I love the conversation of moving from 3D to 5D. And I would just love for you to kind of deep dive a little bit more into that. Like, how do you see us individually and collectively really achieving that?
Yeah, so basically, the world is an utter mirror. So the entire world outside of us is a mirror for what's inside of us. And one of the things I think is the thing that took me the longest to kind of get my head around, but once I did, everything started shifting, is taking radical responsibility for absolutely everything in your life. And when I was thinking about, so I have a podcast as well, and I was like, what's the first thing that I want to share on this podcast that's like, if everyone did this, the world would change? And it's basically whenever you are projecting outside of you and you're like saying, they don't love me, or he doesn't like me, or, someone is XYZing me, basically that is a mirror for you doing that to yourself. So instead of like, he doesn't love me, that is a mirror from on a subconscious level of I don't love me. So when we start shifting these and kind of identifying these super deep subconscious limiting beliefs, it's like, let's just remove everyone outside of us, everything outside of us, and start healing these shadow aspects of ourselves. Because the reason we have war in the world and lack and limitation is because we have internal war with those aspects of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So if we can start, identifying those subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings to create peace and harmony within us, first and foremost, that's when the external world starts shifting. So it's about identifying those deepest subconscious limitations, and they pretty much always start with I. So every time, obviously we are here to heal, others do this to me, blah, blah, blah. But that is actually at a higher level from a hierarchical perspective when it comes to your subconscious world. So if we can go to the real root of basically your relationship with yourself and your relationship with divine source, creator, all that is, God, whatever you want to call it, heal all of that. So heal that fear, all of the lack, the limitation, the anger, the judgment, the separation, the regrets, the resentment, the hate, the grief, the loss, the shame, the guilt, exactly, the fear, the shame, and the guilt. Heal all of that first and foremost within ourselves, with versions and aspects of ourselves. That's when we can start shifting to the higher frequencies of 5D unconditional love and unity consciousness and freedom, abundance, and joy. So if we could all take radical responsibility and be like, okay, let's just stop focusing on the outside world, look inwards, identify those which are, they're so freaking deep. So you gotta be ready to do that work. We're badass, we're light workers, we're shadow workers. I don't separate the two, because if you're a shadow worker, that's where you find the light. And if you're a light worker, you need to go into the shadow. So, we're here for a reason. This path is not for everyone in this lifetime, because it's freaking hardcore and badass. But I do believe we've been training for it for lifetimes. And I do believe that, we are going to create this external world when enough of us heal those internal aspects and create peace and harmony and balance within, which also leads on to the whole divine feminine, divine masculine, uniting that within us in peace and in harmony, in balance, because the world is in wounded feminine and wounded masculine. So that's kind of what I believe is going to create this external world, by us each taking radical responsibility and focusing on the relationship with ourselves and with divine source, creator, God, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Oh, babe. And I'm just getting so activated hearing you talk. And I'm like, oh, this is why this conversation is happening for us both, because I am also someone who really stands for radical responsibility and sovereignty. That's one of the first principles in my teaching with my private clients and my containers. And it's not something that you hear about a lot, is taking radical responsibility over your life, over yourself. And I love kind of what you're saying. And it's that divine principle of as within, so without. And I'm the firm believer that you will always go first. If you want more love, if you want more unity, if you want more harmony, whatever it is, it starts here first. And it really is moving from that state of almost survival or victim consciousness into sovereignty, when you take power over yourself as a creator, as an essence, as a soul, and really start looking at how did I also play a part in some of this unfolding, right? I don't know why this example is coming to mind, but I can look back at abusive or toxic relationships I was in. And I also played a part, and there also were red flags that I was ignoring, and to sit there and play victim and act like I had no radical responsibility or ownership in it, honestly, is just perpetuating and rinse and repeating the same cycle. So I really love that so much of your work it starts here. It starts with self. It starts with radical responsibility. It starts with sovereignty. I'm yes, co-signing all of that. I think it is so beautiful. And I guess I'm trying to put myself in the position of someone who's maybe new to this journey. I know for you and I, this has been our work for years now, and we are so deep in the trenches. And to us, we're yeah, of course, do the damn thing, take radical responsibility. But what if you're someone who is kind of like new to spirituality or is new to kind of your connection with source or even taking ownership over life and self, what would you give these people, or what are some of like the tools? How do we even get started in this?
Yeah, so if I think back to my journey, so I had my spiritual awakening in 2020. And it was divinely orchestrated that my friend had just trained as a theta healer, which I can share about later. So I don't want to get, go down that rabbit hole yet, but something else I started, sorry.
Will you give like a brief context? Because some people have no idea what that is. Like, what is theta healing?
Yeah, sure. So my friend trained as a theta healer, and at the time she was trying to explain it to me, and I wasn't getting it. And then I happened to read Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And that was like my first book where like my background is actually science. I got the school award for science and art. So it's like I've got both left and right hand side of the brain, but
Yeah.
it wasn't safe for me to go down the art route because that was that witch wound of creativity, of feminine. Someone giving me a D for my art because it's subjective was like terrifying for my wounded masculine. So I went down the sciences route. So then when I read Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, because he bridges science and spirituality, something unlocked. And I realized that when he talks about theta, that it was a brainwave state. And I was like, okay, this is exciting. I want to try this out. Yeah, I'm like, I want to try this out. So I had like one session with my friend, and then that was it. I like Scorpio deep dived. I had 80 sessions over 2 years because I could feel the shift instantly. It was insane. And basically each layer that we were peeling back. So I'd go kind of with what come up that week, and then we'd tune into the deepest beliefs, and then we'd shift them in the theta state. So just to kind of give you a summary of what happens. So you go into the theta state, which is between 4 and 7 hertz brainwave state. And then you bring in angels, spirit guides, the ascended masters, and creator of all that is. So creator does the healing. So it's called creator in theta healing. I kind of switch between creator and divine source because I'm now a trained theta healer myself. So basically, you just make the command creator of all that is to clear the beliefs or the feelings across all timelines, aspects, dimensions, realities, levels, and languages, and send it to the light. And then you bring in, so it's a bit like Neo in the Matrix, when he gets the program for martial arts, and then all of a sudden he's got like within 30 seconds, he's like this badass martial artist. Your brain is the most powerful computer in the entire universe, it created the universe. So you can actually bring in these programs, these 5D programs across, again, all lifetimes, aspects, dimensions, realities, levels, and languages to overwrite them. And then you start seeing the shifts instantly. And then it kind of peters off after about 4 weeks because, again, it's like it takes 3 to 4 weeks for your new neural pathways to really embed down. So over those 4 weeks, you just start observing yourself behaving completely differently. So things that used to trigger you, you kind of like, you don't get triggered. And then you go, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't get triggered. Like, what's that about? So I just got obsessed. And in the end, I got the call from my higher self, which I didn't realize was my higher self at the time, to watch every session back and document every belief, which is so nerdy, so geeky. No one ever does that. So after 2 years, I had a spreadsheet of 1,500 beliefs, and it became so obvious that I needed to become a theta healer myself. So that is kind of what theta healing is doing. You are literally identifying the deepest subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings, commanding creator to send them to the light, and then bringing in the 5D highest and best, most empowering, abundant, expansive program, and the shifts they're done. So that's kind of the rabbit hole I went down. But simultaneously, I also went down the journaling rabbit hole. So I started working with the moon. So I would journal every quarter. And I think what was happening in the process of me, because I was receiving theta healing and I was basically learning how to do it, even though I hadn't trained and certified, I knew what to say because you don't have that many sessions without it kind of becoming ingrained. Right. And I was noticing that when I was journaling, that actually when you journal, you can actually identify your own subconscious BS on the page. So you can actually look back at it. And I was learning how to basically script. It's like coding. I was learning how to code the deepest beliefs So there's a way of saying them, and you want to make them as punchy and as short as possible and getting to the roots, you know. So that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, it's not like other people do that to me. It's always I do that to myself. So how can we
Yeah.
get to the deepest ones? So I was starting to train myself in pulling out my own beliefs, and anyone can do this. So that's what I mean about if you're getting started, you could just start journaling and you could start looking at your beliefs and pulling them out. And then once you, I've actually just done a podcast episode about this, about how you can take that surface level belief and then you can go down until you get to a really deep one. And sometimes they can be really abstract as well. So it's just fascinating. And I have so much Scorpio in my chart. I just love this process because if you get to the deepest belief, all of them, it's like a house of cards. All of the more surface level beliefs that are stacked on top just fall away. So it's
Yeah.
about, you can create the biggest shifts if you just take the time to identify the one at the root, pull that out, switch it, and then that creates such a ripple effect throughout every aspect of your life, because our lives aren't compartmentalized. You know, a belief that's going on here, especially if it's kind of an abstract belief, will be showing up in every aspect of your life. So I think journaling is a really, really good place for you to start to tune into what your beliefs are. And when you see something that seems limiting, just like a really simple thing that you can do is just ask yourself why you believe that
Yeah.
5 times, just 5 times. So, you know, you get the surface belief and you're like, oh, okay, that feels limiting. And you know it feels limiting because you start contracting and you're like, oh, that feels really icky. Ask
Yeah.
yourself why you believe it 5 times. So why do I believe that? And then you'll get the level down. Why do I believe that? Next level, and keep going. And then the bit that I love is that often you can get an intuitive abstract one that pops in and you're just like, whoa, what is that about? And then that's when you know you've hit that gold. It's in that shadow. That is where you can shift. When you shift that, you can unlock it, and that brings in so much more light. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I really love what you're sharing too, because what I've noticed in coaching and mentoring people is that so many of these core beliefs or limiting beliefs that we really have ingrained in us and make our identity truly were never even ours to begin with. When you start digging deeper and asking why and where does this come from and why do I believe this and when did this start, and really just start like peeling back the layers of the onion, you'll realize that like, oh my gosh, this was from my great 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 grandmother who lived through the Great Depression, or this was from my mother who, you know, was abused. And you start realizing how much of these thoughts and beliefs that you've taken into self truly were never yours to begin with and are not in alignment. And it's almost like when you can identify and create that separation between you and the belief, it's so much easier, like you're saying, to choose and adapt and start believing something different, because you're like, that is ridiculous. Like, why would I ever
Yeah.
believe that?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, so much of what you're saying too. I think theta healing, for maybe people who are new to this term, you could almost swap with subconscious reprogramming. Is that
Oh
correct?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a form of subconscious reprogramming. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so much of the work really lies in what you're speaking about, is like bringing the unconscious to the conscious, because I think it's something like 90 to 95% of our behaviors are unconscious every single
Yeah.
day, that walking around on this autopilot. So this really is like the shadow work and the work that you're talking about, when we can bring some of these hidden aspects to the surface, start bringing awareness and alchemizing them. And then it's like, I always say, like, with awareness comes choice, and with choice comes power. And like, that is where
Yeah.
your power lies to create a new
Yeah.
life. So I love it.
Yeah, and it's funny what you say about how when you start kind of creating that separation between you and the limiting belief, it's so true, because there's actually 4 types of beliefs. So there's the core level beliefs that are created in this lifetime, typically up until the age of 7, because you're just a walking subconscious
But
brain. Yeah, sponge, up until the age of 7. And then you've got genetic. So they are, like you were saying, ancestral, that go back 7 generations. Then
yep,
there's historical. So that is beyond 7 generations, so even further back, but also past life, future life, parallel lives, and collectively
yep,
held, which is obviously my personal favorite. And then the fourth one are soul level. So they're like the deepest ones. But it's so funny because once you start identifying these, and this is what I do love about theta healing, is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where it's come from. It's so we just make the commands to wherever it is across, any lifetime aspect, dimension, reality, level, language. We just clear it and then we bring
Yeah.
it in a multi-dimensional level, because I think you can go down so many rabbit holes.
Oh, for
And I
sure.
have had past life kind of moments of visualizations of things, but I think we can also get attached to those past lives, because I don't necessarily believe that our past lives are our own either. I think we come, we are droplets from this golden lake of all that is. And when we go back to source after this life ends, we take all of our experiences back into that lake. And then when a new kind of lake, a new droplet and a new being is formed, it's formed with all of those,
Yeah.
experiences of the entirety, because we're holograms.
Like the egg
We are
theory.
absolutely everything. And I think, and this is a shift that I've recently had, is that, in the past, I've always been like, oh, I had a past life here and a past life there. But I don't think it's I think it's collectively held
Mhm.
experiences. And I think what's so interesting, and this is where when you bring in the kind of distance between you and the beliefs that come up, I've actually lolled out loud, because I've identified, when I was still receiving theta healing. So one week we identified that in any level, so you don't have to say which level is it in, you just say in any level, I am Jesus. So, okay, well, that's nice. It's nice to think that I resonate with Jesus. So that was great. And then I was kind of doing my journaling the following week between my session, for my following session. And then all of a sudden I dug down and I was like, oh my God, in any level, I'm Hitler. So it's like you can't get too polar, kind of like
Yeah.
opposites. But I'd already done enough work that I wasn't going to take that personally. I wasn't going to be like, okay, well, I'm walking around, I'm the embodiment of Hitler, because that's not in my heart. But the
I'll say
point
that's
is,
not you.
it's not me. But the point is, you carry some really freaking bonkers beliefs. And I think
Yeah.
when you can just not personalize them, it starts becoming fun, because every time you identify a new belief, I know that it's already starting to shift just by shining a light on it. It's just a matter
Absolutely.
of time, because I've got processes and I've got, tools to be able to shift it. So every time I identify one, I get excited, because it means that, I'm opening up and I'm expanding even more. So yeah, definitely not identifying with the beliefs that you've identified is definitely, a way to kind of bring more fun and lightness to it and excitement, rather than beating yourself up for like, oh God, I was Hitler in a past life.
Yeah. And I want to touch on something you're sharing too, because I think this is so important and I'm so guilty of this because I've been on this journey now for, I think, almost 12 years. And when I first got started in my healing, I was like so serious. I was so serious about it and I was so just like dedicated and not that that was a bad thing, but like it also gets to have this element of like play and it's really just an unveiling and it's an unfolding and it gets to be fun and it doesn't have to be so serious and so heavy. And I think that I know for me, and I love that you touched on this too, we can get really stuck in like the healing loop where it's like, is this my sister wound? Is this my mother wound? Is this my father wound? Where did this come from? And it's like that can also be a distracting from you also just making the choice to step into the solution, to adapt these new beliefs, those new behaviors, these new identities, etc. Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, even by bringing simple awareness to a thing, you start shifting it just by bringing awareness to it. So you don't have to like become this like shadow slayer and make your healing journey this big, heavy like thing that feels like work, when it also can be this like discovery where you get to meet parts of yourself and get to know yourself deeper and embody more of that beautiful, authentic, golden essence that you're talking about. It doesn't have to be like work, and I think
Yeah.
that's why so many people don't do this type of thing and they don't do the subconscious reprogramming or they don't work with healers because they think that what they're uncover is going to be hard or painful. And not that it can't be, but there also can be this beautiful element of just like discovery and play and love. And I think if more people kind of could grasp that and embody that in the beginning stages,
Yeah.
it would be a lot more enjoyable of a journey. And I'm speaking
Yeah.
from experience because I did that. I made it really fucking hard for no reason.
Yeah.
And now I look back, I'm like, my spirit was probably like, oh, child, like put down the Paleo Santo, stop saying 1,000 chants. Like it's going to be okay.
Yeah. But I do feel, I look back at myself and I went through that same journey, because, you've likely just had a dark night of the soul, or you're
Yeah.
still in the dark night of the soul. And let's be honest, it's not fun. It's
No.
not fun. So yeah, so let this be a message to those listening that it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to stay heavy, but you know, you can bring some light to it because yeah, you can get sucked into that. And I think it is, you know, dark nights of the soul are always disorientating, but you know, if you can find find the pathway in the void. And I personally believe it's, you know, it lies in the dark. That's what the void's about, isn't it? It lies in the subconscious, that you can, you know, you can feel around and find the door, find the light a lot quicker than just kind of, you know, feeling a bit like it's all really heavy and it's all just overwhelming and too much. So yeah, no, I went through that as well. I went through that. But I think once you kind of got your tools, you got your toolbox, your spiritual toolbox,
Exactly.
then you're like, bring it on. Bring it
Yes.
on. I'm gonna, like, you know, machete my way through this jungle. And then you also realize that you're not necessarily staying on the ground. You can start like climbing trees in the jungle, and then you can start like, you know, leaping, and then all of a sudden you're like one of these, I don't know what's coming to my mind, one of these squirrels that just like jumps from tree to tree, because you realize that you're just a, you know, you're a shadow badass, and you got this. You're a ninja. You know what you're doing.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. And I completely agree. I think too, it's like after you've experienced a dark night of the soul or a void one time, two times, then you start, oh, okay, these are actually divinely orchestrated. It's fruit here, there's juice here, there's wisdom here, there's power here. And how can I just like be right where I'm at to receive it? At least that's been my journey.
Yeah.
But something I do really want to ask you about, and I would love for you to speak on today, is the concept of herd healing. When you were speaking about this with me privately, I was like, oh my God, we need to talk about this on the podcast. So would you please introduce like my audience to herd healing, what you mean by this, and why we really are needing this, or where we're going collectively with this?
Yeah, so thank you, first of all, so much for asking me to explain it, because it's a concept that I've been talking about and sharing about for a while, but I don't think I actually kind of communicated what really it meant. So, and then when you asked me, I was like, oh yeah, I should probably explain that. So basically, this phrase herd healing comes from the phrase herd immunity. So, you know, when obviously, you know, there's a virus, obviously we all know the big virus that's been going on around, but the concept is when there's a virus, when a critical number of people get immunity, it's called herd immunity. And therefore everyone kind of instantly heals when just a certain proportion. And I don't think it's necessarily that many people get immunity. And then it kind of just, the virus just dies off. So basically, I came up with this concept of herd healing. And obviously, it ties into my work around focusing on the collectively held subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings. And then I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So if just a critical mass of us, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's not like, you know, not everyone is here to be a light worker or a shadow worker in this lifetime. You know, we're all at different levels, soul levels. So this is for the kind of, you know, levels 8, 9, 10 souls. Apparently there are 10 levels of souls. So this is like, you know, those of us who have had many incarnations, who are really here to shift the frequency and raise the frequency. If enough of us could heal these collectively held subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings from 3D to 5D, so on an individual level, to not just create, you know, powerful change, because the beliefs that I basically give you on a plate to muscle test as to whether you have them, you know, there's a way of knowing. You can ask your body whether you have a subconscious belief just by muscle testing. So that's kinesiology. So you can literally ask your body, do I have this subconscious belief? Yes, no. Then you can heal it. So if enough of us can do that, then that's when we create this herd healing ripple effect, and we can literally raise collective consciousness, the frequency on the planet, from 3D to 5D faster than ever before. And maybe it's the manifestor in human design in me. I don't know anyone talking about this. It's my own wild concept, but I just feel so passionately about it that if enough of us can do that, then we'll create this new world that we so desperately need, because we're going into the age of Aquarius. You know, we are here for the next, is what, 13,000 years of light. You know, we've been through 13,000 years of darkness. It's about shifting that and going back into the light now. So that's what my concept herd healing is about. And I'm just so passionate about it. I could talk about it for days. So yeah, hopefully that explains what that's all about.
That's a beautiful introductory. And the minute that, even before I had you explain to me what it means, and I seen it on email instantly, like everything inside of me pinged, it got lit up. I was like, okay, I need to know more about this. And when you're really speaking into this and where you see collective going with this, it just makes so much sense to me, because it really is falling back into those universal principles that we are all one, that there is no separation, right? That we're all connected. And the same thing, like with our ancestors, where people think there's separation, there's no separation. Like, you literally are your ancestors living embodied. So when you're speaking of this, and really, again, coming back to that radical responsibility and you taking ownership of your life and your frequency, like, how could that not then create massive ripple effects into collective consciousness and raise the vibration, not only of humanity, but of the planet? So to me, when you're saying this, I'm like, yes, if more of us light workers, more of us souls, as you described them in 8, 9, 10 level souls, just if more people really took ownership that they have a role to play in this ascension, in this awakening, in birthing this new age, how much quicker we would have, and the word that's coming is like utopia, how much quicker we would get to a state where we are resurrecting the divine feminine, where we are seeing more love and harmony and unity on the planet. But it starts again here. It starts with self, right? You want to go change the world, change your fucking self, right? Change how you love your husband, change how you love your kids, how you connect with your fellow sisters. Like, that's how we're going to change the world. So when you bring in this concept of herd healing, but in a way that is so individual, to me, I'm like, yes, like, okay, let's get everybody to do this. Like, raise your hand if you're in. I'm in. I love it.
I only have 2 hands. I'd raise 1,000 if I could. That honestly, that I had goosebumps when you were just talking, because when I actually deliver the theta healing sessions that are actually now in my programs, they're a blend of theta healing and guided visualization, because I also realized that, when I used to do one-to-one sessions, but the manifestor in me, I'm also a 5/1 in human design. So I'm not designed to do one-to-ones. I'm designed to stand on a stage, get the megaphone, blast it out. Anyone up for collective consciousness raising, give it here. So that's kind of what my role is. So I was like, how can I help heal, but like heal the masses, whoever's in? So I created my programs, which are self-led, they're instant access. So in it, you've got, this is how you identify the collectively held subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings you have. And then there's the healing session. So at the beginning of the healing session, I say, like, it's so powerful you being here, because you're not just healing yourself, you are healing your ancestors, you are healing future generations, you are healing your parallel lives. Like you said, we are all one. So that's why I do believe that it won't take all of us to do it, but it will take that critical mass. And it's so freaking powerful. And then I add in the guided visualization, because when I was doing one-to-one, I had a lot of clients going, yeah, but how? Yeah, but how? Because the ego loves to kind of question. So we'd bring in the download, and it's like, so show you and teach you what it looks like and feels like for you to behave like this now, to believe this now. And they'd go, but how? And then I was like, well, actually, the subconscious, it speaks in imagery. It's all about, that's the language, isn't it? So I now write these guided visualizations that go with the beliefs that we clear and the new downloads that we bring in. And I've seen like the shifts that are happening for my clients are massive, because all of a sudden the subconscious really latches onto that new 5D download so much faster, because like, oh, that's how I work with it. Okay, cool. Whereas before it was a bit like, there was opportunity for the ego to kind of like slide in the back door and go, yeah, but do you really know? So again, the manifestor in me is like, right, how can I get this out to as many people as possible? How can I duplicate myself so that I can just like choo the collective consciousness raising train?
I love it. I love it. And I think this is such a beautiful segue into you letting us know how people can find you, because I'm sure that there's people listening to this conversation going, oh my gosh, yes, me, I'm raising my hand. I want to be a part of this movement. And working with Lisa would be the greatest start to that. So how can they find you? What are your offerings right now? How do we get in this world, girl? We
How
want
do
to
we
join.
get in it? Amazing. Thank you so much. So, yeah, so you can find all of my programs on my website, House of Guilt. So, GILT, meaning gold, because we're here to transmute the old guilt, the 3D guilt, to 5D gold. So, yeah, so my website, www.houseofguilt.co. So yeah, so at the moment I have I've got Activate Your Divine Energy. So all my programs are called Activate Your Divine Power. Basically, it's all about putting you back in your freaking power. So I think I've worked probably across 25 different areas of my life. So the foundational one is called Activate Your Divine Energy. So that is really putting you back into your own unique divine energetic frequency. So that's your connection to divine source, Mother Earth, your multidimensional beingness, reclaiming all your soul fragments, reclaiming all the bits of energy that you've left everywhere, and then fully activating your unique energetic frequency, because there's only one frequency that you have, but it's part of, all that is, because we're individual, like, sparks and spikes on this collective unity consciousness lake. And then part two is about right now you're back in your own unique divine energy. How can you command it, manage it, flow with it, protect it, expand it? So that's the foundational one. And then after that, it's like you can do whichever one you want. So Activate Your Divine Boundaries, that will be out by the time this goes live. Activate Your Divine Money is coming next after that, but there's going to be Activate Your Divine Feminine, Activate Your Divine Masculine, Activate Your Divine Leadership. I've got 2025 of these all coming out. So, and it's
just
a
come to me and you will be activated.
What's that? Yeah, you'll be freaking activated. So yeah, it's a distillation of the over 3,000 of these subconscious limiting beliefs, feelings, and misunderstandings that I've accumulated, because the first 2 years I was documenting them with my Theta Healer, and then I trained 2 years ago, and I've carried on the healing on my own. So that's when I realized that, a subset of them were collectively held, and actually create this 3D matrix, and let's get the herd healing going on. So that's where you can find those programs. And if you want to find me on Instagram, that's houseofguilt.co. I've also got YouTube, and I've got a podcast, Activate Your Divine Power podcast. So yeah, just come say hi, hang out with me.
Yes. And I will be linking all of these in the show notes, so you guys can click them, find her easily. But thank you, Lisa, so much for being here, for sharing your vision of where we're going, sharing your work, your beautiful wisdom. I honestly, I'm biased, but I love you dearly. And I'm so, so grateful to have you in my life and to walk this path with you. I just love you, sis.
Oh, thank you, my love. Honestly, I'm so grateful that we connected all that while ago. Honestly, yeah, soul sister, soul sister. So thank you so much, my love. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in the world. Like, I see you and I just love you deeply. So
I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in today for another juicy episode of the Shadow Priestess Embodied podcast. Listen, I absolutely love having these conversations with you and inviting on incredible trailblazers, blueprint changers, just leaders in their own right onto this podcast to have these deep conversations. So if this is one that you found intriguing, that you found some nuggets in, please share it with a friend and get the word out, because these messages that we're sharing here are powerful, they are potent, and they are so needed as we really embrace these winds of change and birthing this new age. And if you are someone who is looking to go deeper into your own journey, I recently have opened a few private one-on-one mentor spaces, and these are truly for the people who are ready to go deep, to push their edges, to dive into their shadows, and to really meet themselves. I have devoted my life's work to helping women redefine their relationship with their power, to really become rooted in the embodiment of their essence and find the courage to walk their soul-led life. This isn't work that I take lightly, and I would love to walk with you if you are ready to say yes. For more information, you can click in the show notes and also access a wheelhouse of free trainings, activations, meditations to really help you wherever you are at on your healing journey. So until next time, talk soon. Love you big.